Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Brews with Brian, a craft beer review podcast. Craft beer is beer that is brewed in smaller breweries, not these big corporate machine breweries that we're all aware of. Craft beer is made with patience and time, and the people that brew this stuff care about the product they are delivering to us, the consumer, and I couldn't be more thankful. On today's episode, I'm reviewing Bourbon County brand Café de Olla Stout from Goose Island Beer Company, Tripel from St. Bernardus Brewing Company, and Space Station Middle Finger from Three Floyds Brewing Company. So let's kick this show off. And first up on today's show, we have Bourbon County brand Café de Olla Stout from Goose Island Beer Company out of Chicago, Illinois. It's got an ABV of 13.5%, and it's a one-off availability, so you can only get it one time. Bourbon County Stout is a beer that Goose Island makes once a year, and they have different variants, and this is one of them. The description from the website says Goose Island added coffee beans and cold brewed coffee to the beer, but then also added orange peel and vanilla sugar garnish. This beer pours pitch black with a 1/4 inch of light brown head that soon settles. Not much in the way of lacing. Aromas of orange peel and cinnamon are the top notes of this beer. It's a candied sweetness, steady background notes of rich, roasty coffee. In the time as the beer warms up closer to room temperature, the familiar flavors of bourbon barrel come out. Roasty malt makes its way to the forefront. Tasting this beer, it's cinnamon-like all over the first sip. Candied orange peel rides up alongside it. Deep coffee flavors are much more predominant than the nose suggested, and steals the spotlight for a time. Roasty baseline malt, fudge, and chocolate torte. Molasses is there as well. Subtle dark fruit and a spike of alcohol. Bourbon and barrel aging bring flavors of bourbon candy and chocolate caramel chews. And all these flavors linger on long after the finish. It's got a thick and hefty mouthfeel. It's chewy, slick, and it coats your mouth. You get a gentle prick of fine carbonation, gives somewhat of a light scrubbing action, and then you get that warming alcohol. Overall, the nose was a bit of a worry at first for me, as it led me to believe this might end up being disjointed and additive driven. Thankfully, that isn't the case. The special ingredients do add their own unique flair. I had been wanting to try a Bourbon County brand stout from Goose Island for a long time, and I finally found it in Mobile while I was down there getting ready to go on my cruise for my honeymoon, and picked this one up, and it was fantastic, and I'm going to try my best to find one every year. I wish I'd bought 2 or 3 of these. But overall, I'm going to give Bourbon County brand Café de Olla Stout from Goose Island Beer Company 5 stars. And next up on the show, we have Tripel from St. Bernardus Brewing out of Belgium. Tripel has a ABV of 8% and a year-round availability. The description from the website says, St. Bernardus is a traditional Abbey ale brewed in the classic Tripel style of Belgium's best Abbey ales. It has a blonde to pale amber color with a wonderful head, slightly sweet aroma, and a orangey, grassy flavor of hops in the finish. It's wonderfully drinkable and surprisingly light. Pouring this beer, it's slightly dark golden color with exceptionally robust off-white head formation. It leaves about a 3 to 4 finger head, excellent retention and lacing. The aroma is tart and tangy on the nose. You get some grains and cardamom, are notable up front, with a red berry note. It's more strawberry than raspberry, evolving to less tangy with more banana and clove notes as it warms up. Now, tasting this beer, it's sweet and tart, but neither is overpowering. Banana and cloves definitely predominant, but with caramel, cardamom, red delicious apples, and red berries in the mix. Bitterness very out front and persistent, but very well balanced. The mouthfeel is medium to full-bodied with a robust carbonation, sufficient to cause tingling on the tongue throughout. It's got a very rich mouthfeel. Overall, this is a delicious triple. It's very complex, rich, and probably my second favorite St. Bernardus beer, besides their App 12, which is fantastic. It's slowly becoming one of my favorite breweries, especially outside the U.S. So I suggest you give it a try. You will not be disappointed. So I'm going to give Tripel by St. Bernardus Brewing 5 stars. And our final beer on this week's show is Space Station Middle Finger from Three Floyds Brewing Company out of Munster, Indiana. Space Station Middle Finger has an ABV of 6% and a year-round availability. The description from the website says, from the dawn of time, humans have looked up to the sky for answers. Space Station Middle Finger replies to all from its eternal orbit. Behold and enjoy Space Station Middle Finger, a bright, golden American Pale Ale. This beer pours a lightly hazed golden copper color with a 1-inch off-white head that recedes slowly to a cap of foam and then a thin, irregular island of foam, while leaving a spotty web and rings of lacing. The aromas have some caramel, tropical fruits, and a bit of melon, and a light touch of citrus in the background. Tasting this beer is pretty much as expected from the nose. There's the caramel malt, some tropical fruits, and a touch of melon. The very light citric tinged bitterness is noticeable, but remains in the background. The mouthfeel is medium-bodied and smooth with the light to moderate and persistent carbonation. The finish begins as the sweetness and the fruit flavors begin to fade as the light citric zest tinged bitterness moves to the back of the palate, where it takes a long time to disappear. Overall, this is a very enjoyable and drinkable beer that is fairly unusual for an American Pale Ale in that both the hops and the malt play a major role in the aromas, flavor, and they play nicely together throughout. I'll try to get some more of this to try. My buddy Anthony, when he was down for my wedding, brought this down because I can't get this beer in Alabama, but he can in Illinois. So be on the lookout for a bonus episode probably coming this week where I talk with Anthony, and we actually tried this beer there for the first time. Overall, I'm going to give Space Station Middle Finger from Three Floyds Brewing Company 3 stars. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Brews with Brian. I want to thank everybody for listening. On this week's show, I reviewed Bourbon County brand Cafe de Olla Stout from Goose Island Beer Company. I reviewed Tripel from St. Bernardus Brewing Company, and Space Station Middle Finger from Three Floyds Brewing Company. Again, thank you everybody for listening. The show continues to grow each and every week. It seems like every week we're picking up a country or a state, which is fantastic. It's totally exceeded my expectations. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, and Spotify. So don't forget to like and subscribe, comment, rate it, whatever you got to do. It always helps the show out. I want to give another special shout out to Southern Package of Sheffield, Alabama, where I buy all of my craft beer when I'm home. And so if you live in North Alabama, they'll go there. They'll treat you right. It's great people. and they've got a ton of stuff to choose from. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Brews with Brian, and we'll see you next time.